From the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, it is time for the 5th sprint of the season. And it's the first occasion that this great venue has witnessed a Saturday race to accompany the Grand Prix tomorrow. 19 laps lay ahead, with the first of them sure to be super aggressive if the rest of the season is anything to go by. Last time out, the sprint produced a new F1 winner in just his 17th F1 weekend. We are ready and we are poised. Officially round 19 of the Formula One World Championship. Here is the circuit they will do battle on. It is 5.5 kilometers, 3.4 miles in length, and 20 turns with a huge amount of elevation into that tempting late lunge of a first corner. We have seen contact there plenty of times. Also, in 4 of the last 5 races held here, P2 has led by the time that we get to the end of the first lap. Logan Sargent starts his second home race of the year from 20th, next to Yuki Tsunoda, who didn't get a second push lap in the shootout earlier on. Valtteri Bottas, a former winner here, next to Kevin Magnussen, racing for the American team Haas. Then you've got Nico Hülkenberg in 16th, next to Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo. Lance Stroll is 14th on what is turning into a tough weekend for Aston Martin. Esteban Ocon has been wished good luck by Rory McIlroy on the radio in the last couple of moments. Fernando Alonso is 12th, George Russell getting a 3-place penalty for impeding, and then it's Daniel Ricciardo who's elevated up to 10th, Pierre Gasly in 9th position. Alex Albon knowing that there's a big opportunity for him. The top 8 score points in this one, Sergio Perez goes from 7th on the grid. And then it's Carlos Sainz, 6th for Ferrari. Oscar Piastri won this race last time out. Then it's Lando Norris in 4th. Lewis Hamilton a threat from P3 on the grid. And our front row, Charles Leclerc on pole for tomorrow's Grand Prix, 2nd today. And Max Verstappen making amends for that lost pole position yesterday with the sprint shootout pole and a chance to claim his 3rd win in this format of the season. So we look down on the grid, and it is intriguing to see which way they will go with the tyres. We are in front of a huge crowd. 440,000 will make their way through the gates this weekend. That is Lewis Hamilton. We expect most of the field to be on the medium tyre. Will anyone try something different? It is this first sector so stressful on the tyres. The track temperature is 36 degrees. The air temperature is 33. And we are a few moments away. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Shakes, joined by David Coulthard and James Hinchcliffe for what is sure to be a dramatic run up to the first corner, DC.
It is indeed. Front row have gone mediums. They're going for the race pace, of course. If you take the risk on that softer tyre, you definitely will get the launch advantage up into that tricky turn 1, but you may well pay the price afterwards. And I'm not sure I'm seeing anyone on anything other than medium tyres.
We've got a Ferrari of Carlos Sainz on the Red Bull soft. He's going to gamble. He's going to get a great launch hitch off the line.
He is, but we saw how that worked out for Lewis Hamilton in Qatar. You've got to be careful. You still have to put yourself in a good position into this treacherous turn 1. Carlos was the victim of that last year in the Grand Prix, so he's all too familiar with how things can go sideways.
So we are on to the formation lap with the giant flag there at the top, and just one driver in the field deciding to go for that soft tyre. Everyone else going for the medium. And we're on board with Carlos Sainz, who is on that tyre. 3 laps old, but what a launch he's going to get off the line. We occasionally... Qatar was a huge gamble. It was uncertainty which tyre was right. Everyone seems to have made their mind up. It's the C4 soft tyre for the Spanish driver.
Yeah, look, they've obviously looked at the data, they've looked at where he's qualified, and they're rolling the dice. But the information coming to Carlos Sainz saying, you're the only one on the soft tyre, that's going to put a little doubt in his mind. I don't think he's going to be going, yeah, I'm the only one who's made the right decision.
But it's a learning thing as well, right? I mean, we still have a Grand Prix tomorrow to get through, and if somehow these things last a full stint, a full 19 laps here, that could play into the strategies tomorrow. Last year, it was a medium and hard race, but who knows? Every year it gets a little bit different, and maybe this tire can actually hold on.
So, just a reminder for you, format-wise, 19 laps for the drivers is about 30 minutes of racing, no mandatory pit stops, and the top 8 scoring points, 8 for first all the way down to 1 point for 8th place.
Just reflecting what Hinch said there, you remind me of there's a movie called Dumb and Dumber, and there's a scene where they were going, there's a 0.0000001 chance.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm loving your optimism.
Yeah, it might just be more of a sacrificial test session in that sense.
We're on board with Fernando Alonso, who had a airborne crash at that part of the circuit 1 year ago. He will be hoping to improve from his 12th position in the field up to the top 8. We're looking at the American driver Logan Sargent, a native of Florida, but this is his second home race, of course. He gets the chance to have 3, like Antonio Giovinazzi had with Italy a couple of years ago, 3 races in the USA for the first time since the 80s. Austin right in front of your eyes, and then a return to Vegas, this time down the iconic strip. That's all to come. We are all eyes now to the grid, and Christian Horner watches on, wondering if Max Verstappen can score another victory. Can he get to the flag first? 2 wins for him in this format this season, in Austria and in Belgium when it was wet and dry. He has the first position on the grid, but he knows this stat that you get the inside line, it's wide, it's inviting into the first turn of the racetrack. On board with the Australian driver Oscar Piastri there, you see Zach Brown, his team principal, you see the man running the racing side of things, Andrea Stella. What a first year he has had as the man in charge of all things racing at McLaren. And Ferrari slightly surprised by the form that they've had this weekend, but Charles Leclerc knows that he's got to try and wrestle the lead away from the driver that we're on board with. That's Max Verstappen, a 3-time champion of the world, won in a sprint last time out. Logan Sargent in the blue Williams will be the last car into position in front of a huge crowd watching for the spectacle of the hairpin that begins this lap. Nervous glances all around. Track temperature is 36 degrees. The 20th and final car is in position, and we await for the green flag at the back. Here come the 5 red lights in the USA. And the sprint race is underway in Austin. Good reaction time for Max Verstappen, who will close the door on Charles Leclerc, dramatically so. Charles Leclerc didn't want to give it up. He had no choice in the end. They will both get through the first turn with Verstappen having the lead. Hamilton up to second place, squirming all over the road. The Ferrari was squeezed. They go wheel to wheel into the section with Hamilton getting up to second position. Charles Leclerc gambled. It didn't work. He goes from challenging for first, he's down to third position, and then gaining a place in the middle of the pack is Carlos Sainz, who is up to P5. Esteban Ocon gained a couple of places as well, but it's Max Verstappen with the lead.
He had to fight for it. He had to go really defensive into one, and super impressed. We didn't see locking up and running wide there. Charles Leclerc fought hard for it, and only 1 gain for Carlos Sainz. This is going to be really interesting to see whether those tyres hang in there and give him any further advantage as the 3 abreast off the hairpin.
This is not going to end well down into turn 12. No DRS obviously on the first lap, but you see the Astons in line. That's Nico Hülkenberg as we see Carlos Sainz going down the inside of the McLaren into 12 for another spot.
That'll work for Carlos Sainz. Fires up those soft tyres, gets the move complete. Checo trying to make the pass. Sergio Perez trying to make the pass on Oscar Piastri in the Papaya McLaren ahead, but it's 2 position gained on that opening lap for Carlos Sainz, who makes those soft tyres work and takes 4th place. Here is Sergio Perez heaving the pressure on the Australian rookie, the winner of the sprint last time out. Verstappen chopped all the way across. He knew Charles Leclerc was coming. He closed the door. Leclerc kept his foot in. You'd expect nothing less. And Hamilton, the big winner on the opening lap. 0.7 of a second across the line. Verstappen versus Hamilton, as it has been here for the last 2 Grand Prix that we've run in Austin.
Yeah, and I'm surprised to see Leclerc hasn't sort of pulled back a little bit on Hamilton. Let's remind ourselves, it's not exactly as if you're trying to pace yourself for a long Grand Prix here. We've only got those 19 laps, no pit stops expected. And Hamilton definitely doing enough just to keep the back end of Verstappen. And crucially, if he can keep within that 1 second, he'll get the DRS advantage when we get that activation.
So, what do Ferrari do now? Do they try and unleash the performance of Sainz, or do they immediately put him into the tyre management phase? Remember what we heard from the drivers earlier on after the shootout. They were talking about managing as they went. Sergio Perez seems very aggressive in that Red Bull, with the Mercedes of George Russell up 3 places, so negating the positions lost off the line, and he finds himself in 8th place. This looks like a good run for the Red Bull that's closing down the gap. Oscar Piastri knows it as well. And can Perez go around the outside, or will the door be closed? Fair racing, but off the road goes Perez. He'll tuck back in. He won't be delighted about it, but he would have expected nothing less.
what was interesting, he got such a closing speed as he approached towards the braking zone, and then it's almost like he lifted out in the final phase of the braking there. Oscar defending the inside well.
On board with George Russell, trying to take advantage of Perez, having a look, trying to make the pass, unable to do so. This is curb cap at turn 19 of this 20-turn circuit. It is 1.1 seconds between Verstappen and Hamilton out front.
Yeah, that onboard from George Russell through the carousel there is such a great shot in qualifying, in practice. If you're in clean air, easy flat. I say easy flat. Easy for these guys to be flat. But in that dirty air, it really shows you. He was pedaling, is maybe a look from the Red Bull there. Checo Perez couldn't get the move done, but yeah, it's interesting. That's a great way to sort of illustrate how that dirty air affects the car. You're not able to just keep your foot in it like that.
What was interesting, it was a very late sort of move from Checo there, almost slightly desperate, that didn't actually give him any advantage other than to pull George Russell into advantage initially there. He got a bit closer, and he'll be watching this battle nicely. Checo, really, he should be clearing that McLaren.
Yeah, sometimes you're just trying to, sell the guy in front of you a dummy by pulling out late, try to get in his mirrors, make him make a mistake, lose concentration.
Yeah, my defense on that was, I was a dummy, so you cannot tell a dummy to a dummy.
Looks like something's brewing between these three, with Piastri having to drive on his mirrors a touch. This is a circuit that he is new to. He's been learning it as we go. There's the move of defense once again. Perez gets a second opportunity. The Australian will be late on the brakes once again. Piastri defending. Perez does the up and under, chops across. Piastri doesn't want to give it up, but he doesn't have a choice, and Sergio Perez makes the pass that he needed to.
Yeah, that was a great move, as we now see George Russell trying to capitalize on Piastri, off stride a little bit here. Can he go around the outside of 16? I don't think so.
Whoa, all the way around the outside. Did he keep all four wheels on the racetrack? Because if he didn't, he's got to take it back.
Oh, that was a brave move from George Russell.
Yeah, it was brave, it was fun, but I think he went beyond the white line, so he's going to have to give that back. But Oscar hasn't had a chance to breathe and focus on driving a clean lap. His mirrors have been full of attacking cars.
And that was a great move from Checo, as we listen to some Gasly radio.
Russell overtook off the track.
Right. I think we're all on board with that one. Unfortunately for George Russell, this was a great move otherwise. But yeah, great defensive response from Checo as he came out of turn 12 there to just keep Piastri pinned there into 13.
Lewis Hamilton has got the gap down to 0.7 of a second with the use of DRS. Let's go back to the start and the move from Max Verstappen.
Yeah, Verstappen had to take it all the way across the pit exit line, and Charles Leclerc, well, they fought hard, they fought clean, but unfortunately for Charles, that lost him that position to Hamilton. He tried to hold it, but the damage was done on board with Oscar Piastri. Actually, not a bad initial getaway. Then he had a bit of a spin up of the rear tire, and then a bit of contact with Carlos Sainz for good measure.
I wonder if that's maybe done a bit of damage to the 81 cars. We see Hamilton, he's riding around the outside here. Great exit. Is that going to count as off as well?
Yeah, he was actually beyond the white lines there. Are they allowing that one?
I think you could probably argue first corner, the, exceptional circumstances, and they're probably going to let that slide. But this is what's more important. Less than a second gap, well within DRS range. This is a true race right now up front.
Fantastic to see these two greats of Formula One reunited back at the front of the field. They have put on a private battle time and time again in the last couple of years. Last year, a botched pit stop for Max Verstappen meant he had to recover past Hamilton. He took the lead with 7 laps to go. We've got 15 here. The year before, they pushed each other to an unbelievable height of performance with one of Max Verstappen's best ever victories. George Russell was noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Surely Mercedes will be on the phone to him to say, give the place back. We don't want to risk a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely clear what's going to happen there. What's interesting now with Hamilton firmly in that DRS zone, this gives him lap time, clearly. And it enables him to not have to take as much out of the tyres in certain parts of the racetrack whilst keeping the pressure on Verstappen.
Pierre Gasly has improved to 8th position. He's got past Oscar Piastri, and the Frenchman making another pass on the Australian driver. This is how he did it, heading to turn 1. And this is going to be late on the brakes.
Yeah, I just can't help but think that maybe there's still some damage to Piastri from that clip with Carlos Sainz heading into the first turn on the first lap there. He saw a little bit of movement in the left front. I'm not sure if it's wing damage, maybe even suspension damage.
Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. The benefit, if you start on the soft tyre, is that you get a great launch off the line. You get happy times in the early laps from the grip. The problem is that tyre expires. It looks like it's happened.
The durability has shown out there. Lost the rear completely. Could have been the gust of wind, Max.
So GP and Max in conversation as we hear time and time again. Hamilton is a lot more confident in the first sector of the racetrack, and he's been consistently faster than Max Verstappen through the first third of the circuit. The stewards are investigating Russell for going off track and gaining an advantage.
And this is exactly what you see as a result of only a single practice session, because they didn't get a chance to fill these cars up with fuel, do longer runs, get a sense of the dig. Where do you need some of those drivability options? As we see that investigation call from the FIA. And so, yeah, Max just complaining that the drivability is not there. He's losing the rear of the car. The power down's becoming more difficult, and Hamilton is still right there.
Max has gone off quite a few times.
They're all telling teacher.
The appeal goes up once again, and Hamilton reporting back, trying to stay with Verstappen out front as they rotate the car. We see the car so animated, squirming all over the road from the first running here. Usually by this stage of a weekend, you would expect the track to be more rubbered in. The drivers are having to hustle out there, but Verstappen having a good couple of laps, 1.3 seconds the gap now, crucially breaking the DRS that Lando Norris has as he tries to go past Carlos Sainz, who's glancing heavily in the mirrors, and you can see why that McLaren gaining with every metre of this circuit.
Yeah, it hasn't worked, has it? The choice of tyre for Sainz, very wide on that turn there. You can see the McLaren picking up the apexes nicely in this very low-speed section. This is where, in qualifying, actually, Lando was well wide, but he's driving a much more consistent line in the race, and there's that penalty for George Russell. There's the case for if you know you've gone off, you better just give him the place back, with the exception if he can pull more than 5 seconds on... It was Piastri, wasn't it?
It was Piastri. I wonder if that's a judgment call from Mercedes, because they're looking at the same pictures that we are. They've seen he's overtaken off the road. They would have known they're going to get a 5-second penalty. I wonder if someone's gone, you know what, take the hit and take the track position, because if not, that is a bizarre operational error, because we knew that this penalty was coming. Here's the moment where he tried an audacious move around the outside of Oscar Piastri.
We think you were pushed off that first. He just ran me off the road.
Okay. Well, we are in America. We're not far from Hollywood. There's a bit of Hollywood script there. That was just a bit of opportunism. And
he wasn't far enough alongside to be claiming he got ran off the road. I mean, Oscar would have no idea he was there. It was a bold move, as we see a bold move here from Alex Albon down into turn 12. Great move to pick up a spot. He lost a few in that opening sequence, back up to 9th, just outside of the points. But yeah, I think Piastri's, I think he's an injured warrior right now.
Piastri dropping through the order at the moment. Albon, one place outside of the points at the moment, making the move and going deep into turn 12 as well. We cut to the battle of Lando Norris momentarily going ahead of Carlos Sainz. Sainz sweeping back around the outside. This is the joy of these corners, where they're ducking and diving at slow speed compared to the rest of the lap. But Sainz hangs on to 4th, and all the while he will be taking a lot out of these soft tyres. Surely just a matter of time for Norris to make the pass.
Yeah, I mean, he's just hanging on for dear life right now, getting on the radio. How many laps left, you said? I mean, we have 11 of these to go. I don't know if it's going to be the news that Carlos wants to hear. It's such a tough position to be in as a driver, knowing that the grip's just falling away. You got a queue of cars behind you. Any little mistake is going to get exploited, and you could just get absolutely passed one after the other as soon as you get offline.
Could be good news for Sergio Perez, who is closing in on this battle, and the more they scrap ahead, it becomes a 3-car fight. This was the move once again into turn 12.
Yep, brave on the brakes, but unfortunately just had to, having run deep, compromise his exit. And Carlos, well, had enough left in those tyres to straighten the car and unleash the potential. He thought about it again, didn't he? Lando coming back on that turn, but in the end, it's all low speed through there. I think he'll eventually get the better of Sainz. Those tyres are just not going to go as far.
Yeah, we think Verstappen was already complaining about the mediums being gone about 5 laps in. Here we are 8 laps in now. Sainz on the softs. It's just got to be such a handful. And that queue of cars is starting. You see Perez there now, less than a second behind Norris as well. So he's in the DRS zone, which means as soon as Norris gets another shot at Sainz, Perez is going to be right there to try to capitalize on it.
This battle is going to grow and grow and grow. George Russell, just looking at his position at the moment, Pierre Gasly is 2 seconds away from him, and Alex Albon is further away. So Russell, as it stands, would lose a position in this classification and elevate Gasly up to P7 as we continue to focus on Carlos Sainz, 2-time Grand Prix winner, most recently at the Singapore Grand Prix, and a superb tactical performance using that day Lando Norris, keeping him close, using him tactically, brilliantly executing, superb driving knowledge, but this time he's trying to keep him behind. Still a very long way to go if you consider the stress that this sector is placing on the tyres. We have a different story in all 3 sectors of the racetrack. Perez is the fastest driver, Sector 1. Sector 2 is Hamilton. Sector 3 is Verstappen. That is a late lunge, and that is a move to pinch the apex. And once again, we're seeing a driver try to carry on through there. And still it goes on with Yuki Tsunoda fighting hard up against Kevin Magnussen, who is always desperate to get his elbows out. And that battle continued time and time again. Magnussen taking 16th place.
Yeah, Magnussen's full-on Viking, isn't he? He fights hard for every position, and quite rightly. It's called racing for a reason. And Tsunoda going to have to be a bit cleaner to get a pass on him. And there's a whole line of cars waiting for them to get involved.
We go on board with Lando Norris, who is taking the car to turn 13, trying to turn it into a traction race, trying to force Carlos Sainz off the racing line. Sainz doing well to keep those fading tyres ahead of the better option behind him on the McLaren, on the Red Bull. And Lance Stroll has just improved up to 12th position, getting past Daniel Ricciardo. They're battling outside the points. A reminder for you, the top 8 score in the sprint races.
What is interesting, of course, is that we're getting a little taster of what we can expect in the Grand Prix tomorrow in terms of how the cars use the tyres. It does look like Verstappen was under a bit of pressure to start with from Hamilton, but that's faded slightly. They were trading similar lap times there for a few laps. But the Ferraris, I think they're going to be a little bit disappointed with their race pace right now, because Leclerc on the same tyre is running consistently, half a second or so away from Verstappen.
A warning for Alex Albon for potentially leaving the track and gaining an advantage. We did see quite a low angle of his pass on Oscar Piastri for what is 9th position at the moment. Piastri stayed with Albon, but did Albon put all 4 wheels off the racetrack? He looked very, very deep as he made the pass, but we've only seen one replay angle of that move. What is currently 9th position, first outside of the points playing places. Is this the moment for Lando Norris, who's been in this position time and time and time again? He builds up through the gears, DRS open, up to 185 miles per hour, even faster now with the slipstream of the Ferrari ahead, and the move that has been coming, surely about to be completed by Lando Norris, who takes 4th place.
Yeah, fairly straightforward in the end, and Carlos was putting up more of a defence and trying to forcing Ando to take the normal racing line, which puts him on the wide line into that turn. But on this occasion, it's almost as if Carlos has gone, okay, look, I've just got to focus on trying to stay on track.
I mean, I know that defending slows you down, but that Ferrari's not going to go up the field right now. And at the same time, as soon as you get into dirty air, that's just going to wear the tires out even more. I mean, I would have done everything to try to stay in that clean air, if just for that, not even for the sake of, a strategic advantage from a track position standpoint or anything, but just having that clean air, so much easier on the tires. And now you got to imagine Perez isn't far behind.
Well, taking an alternative line up at turn 1, Perez, that was a very wide line. And of course, when you take a wider line than your competition, you get little marbles and tire and dust and debris. So he presumably felt either a little loss of rear grip or almost like he was going to get some under rotation. And then, as you know, Hinch, you just keep the steering going straight and try and maximize your braking before committing to turning.
So you can hear the crowd willing Sergio Perez past Carlos Sainz. A lot of confidence under braking. Amazing closing speed as he goes wide once again. He'll have DRS, he'll have the slipstream. Will he have 5th position in his possession by the time that we get to the end of the straight? Looks like he's got the momentum to make the pass. We go nose cam for Sergio Perez as he eases his way into 5th place.
Yeah, again, the lack of defense is still a little surprising. I get he's just going to go slower, but that dirty air is going to hurt him. And now Russell's not far behind either. He might fall out of the points by the time this is done.
Yeah, he will indeed be under a little bit of pressure from the cars behind. And, well, the experiment hasn't worked, but no harm in trying.
The reason they were forced down that route, Carlos Sainz out-qualified by Charles Leclerc in both qualifying sessions that we've had so far this weekend. There's the race leader, Max Verstappen, now with a 3.7 second advantage. Hamilton able to stay within DRS for a couple of laps, falling out of it and unable to stay with the pace of the world champion directly ahead. Good news for Alex Albon, no further actions. They reviewed he was deep, he must have just kept it on the road between the white lines. Good news for Williams. They need something dramatic to happen, but they do have a car ahead of them in the classification on fading tyres. Only one car has got the softs on. It isn't a favoured tyre for very long here. Sainz is going to have to show all of his experience to keep it inside the top 8. Russell now closes within a second of the Spanish driver ahead. We'll look at some action further back through the field. Zhou Guanyu giving chase now, trying to force his way by. The up and under move attempted once again. Kevin Magnussen is on the left-hand side. And Kevin Magnussen did this 1 year ago with Sebastian Vettel. And it's Magnussen now who has the possession of the place. He's in 17th because Yuki Tsunoda got him back. We saw him pass earlier on. Tsunoda made progress up to 16th, and that's Magnussen fighting Zhou for 17th position. Not what Haas were hoping for with this update that takes, let's say, heavy inspiration from the car you're looking at on screen. Max Verstappen now leading by 4 seconds on lap 12 of 19. Lewis Hamilton has an amazing record at this circuit. We've been running our 11th Grand Prix weekend at the Circuit of the Americas. Only once since Lewis Hamilton not been in the top 3 of races run here, and that was when he was 4th. So he's always been competitive around this racetrack, and he looks like he's on for another top 3. Not with the opportunity to make a pass on Verstappen today, but there is a new floor. That is where all of the aerodynamic performance is generated from these modern Formula One cars. A new floor which is giving Mercedes a lot of encouragement, not just for this race, but for the next season of Formula One. They needed it to work around this circuit to know that they were on the right track. It does appear to be working. From Hamilton out front to George Russell now, who has the tyre advantage. A reminder, he does have a 5-second penalty hanging over him for overtaking off the road.
Well, just looking further out of the points, Lance Stroll getting in front of Alonso early in the race there is having, well, not a bad Grand Prix here. Alonso just all out of sorts, isn't he? He's struggling to find a way past Ricciardo, which normally he's pretty handy in wheel-to-wheel battling.
Ricciardo in 13th, his teammate Yuki Tsunoda in 15th. Daniel Ricciardo, if you're just joining us for the first time this weekend, recovering from a broken hand at Zandvoort. He's missed 5 races as a result, and now back in the car at a track he adores, in a town he adores, but he won't be loving being down in 13th place. He knows there's an opportunity with the Red Bull senior team if he can show well in the remaining weekends of this season, maybe for 2025, maybe even before. We see Sergio Perez 2.6 seconds away from Lando Norris, so he's not able to stay with the McLaren at the moment. Sergio Perez is being roared along, though, by plenty in the crowd. And is this the moment for George Russell? These two made contact at this corner 1 year ago. Russell sends it to the inside once again. Sainz, well, he positioned the car perfectly. He saw it coming, and he's ahead for the moment. Not much between the two of them as they go into the fast sweepers of the first section of this racetrack, and Russell has to study that Ferrari rear wing once again, but you can see Sainz hanging on to it right now.
Yeah, I think that's a momentarily retake of the position for Sainz. Russell's underlying pace, we'll see him get past, possibly on the run down to the hairpin. He stayed close enough to still be in DRS. Ferrari are pretty quick in a straight line, but DRS is pretty potent.
It was great defense there from Carlos. I mean, we know how much he's struggling with these tires, but he seems to be holding on a little bit. He's not losing a ton of time per lap. He's certainly losing time to Perez ahead, but it's not a gargantuan amount, and he's able to kind of take the fight back to the Mercedes. He tried to take the fight back to Lando and the McLaren earlier, so he is doing a commendable job with this set of tires.
Alonso has just got past his teammate. Alonso has moved up to 13th place, Stroll down to 14th. But that is a car that Fernando Alonso was consistently putting on the podium at the start of the season. This is Daniel Ricciardo fighting up against Lance Stroll, going the long way round. And Ricciardo improving. Stroll did take that place back earlier in the race. Ricciardo back up to 12th. This is Zhou Guanyu. We go on board with the Alfa Romeo driver. And just tried to take the place, but he is being investigated for overtaking off the road, and he didn't seem to keep all four wheels within the white lines, which has been a theme of the weekend so far.
Yeah, I think Alonso's got in front of Stroll as well. Something's gone wrong on that lap. He's dropped a couple of seconds in the middle sector. So has he gone off track, or has he had the call to say, okay, Fernando's finding some pace? It would be strange if that was the case, given where they are with only a few laps of this Grand Prix to go.
Fernando Alonso started the season with 3 podiums in a row. He followed it up with a rostrum visit in Miami, could have won the Monaco Grand Prix, and then Canada and Zandvoort, but the season has stalled for Aston Martin in the last couple of rounds, and they are searching for answers with new updates on the car as well. Russell continues to close on the Ferrari ahead. The Mercedes driver is not going to be close enough for a move this time around. That means that you're waiting for your next opportunity, which will come your way at turn number 1. Verstappen's lead now 5.3 seconds. Verstappen chasing his 50th Grand Prix win in his career tomorrow. He's chasing his 3rd sprint win of the season in the 5th running of this format in Formula 1 2023. And Sainz is doing well to keep that Ferrari nestled in the top 6 for the time being. Russell will know he's got to regroup and try. He will also know that he's got Gasly inside that 5-second penalty window, and there'll be a review operationally of why Mercedes didn't immediately give the Piastri the place back and then try and retake him as he wafts one to the inside, but no chance into turn 1.
I like that. Wafts one to the inside. I've sat alongside you for a little while. Never heard you come away with that expression.
Well, it's the joy of Texas. We're all over the vocabulary today, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, the problem for Russell right now is even if he gets Sainz, I don't think he's got enough time to get the 5-second gap, and so it's almost a lost place anyway. It's definitely not worth taking a big risk for. I mean, even if they didn't have a penalty, it's still just 1 point at this point in the sprint race, but he'll be losing that. There's no way he'll open that kind of gap up unless things just absolutely fall off a cliff for Carlos in the last 3 laps.
Carlos Sainz has a lot of experience, a lot of understanding of how to manipulate the Pirelli rubber. It will be his 180th start in Formula 1 tomorrow. He's done well to keep it in the top 6. They took a gamble. Sometimes it works. If you get a safety car like we had in Qatar, that would take the pressure off, but we didn't have that. We did see an aggressive turn 1. But Max Verstappen kept the lead. Hamilton was able to go up to 2nd place, and those positions were decided on the opening lap. We go over the line, and we have 3 to go then as we go on board with Verstappen, who just has to bring the car home now.
Interesting, he's really started to stretch his legs lap time wise, consistently 7 tenths, 8 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton, who of course could just be saying, okay, I'm just bringing this home in 2nd. So can't say, unlike qualifying where you know they're giving their all, there could be an element of management, but our racing fears, if you're looking for a different result tomorrow, it does look, well, starting 6th of course, so there is that optimism, but the Red Bull is just mighty on managing its tires.
I mean, he's got the confidence in it, because even he said in response to 6th is, oh, it'll make Sunday more fun. That's how he said. He didn't seem too concerned about starting on the front row.
Yeah, you see Lance Stroll there saying, I need to box, no brakes. Remember in free practice, well, it was qualifying actually, wasn't it? Or was it free practice? Practice, yeah, sorry. It seems like we've been here a long time already. There was so much brake dust coming off that Aston. So is that a legacy of that?
Well, he only had 5 laps in that session because of a brake fire in the left front. Even Alonso had a small issue. It didn't take him as long to fix. They were able to get that back, as we see the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll now in the pit lane. They're going to retire that car. So the woes just continue for Aston this weekend, Alex. They're just not where they need to be with this update.
No, a really tough one for a team that has been very impressive in the early part of the year, but they are not loving the concluding races of Formula 1 2023. We're on the penultimate lap of the sprint, lap 18 of 19. We are looking at the 7-time world champion. Lewis Hamilton knows this feeling of trailing Max Verstappen home at the Circuit of the Americas. Hamilton, a 5-time winner here in the Grand Prix. He'll try and regroup tomorrow. Mercedes do their homework very well. The cars might be in parc ferme conditions, but you can always learn with the data that we've run across these 18 laps so far. And Hamilton gaining points with only a few, but gaining points over Sergio Perez. He is trying to take second in the driver's standings, and there is a very, very curious stat that he could emulate. Lewis Hamilton has got so many records in Formula 1 that he does have a possibility to finish second in the Drivers' Championship without winning a race. It hasn't happened since Ronnie Peterson, the Swedish driver, who was such an enigma in Formula 1 back in 1971. So Hamilton trying to close the gap down on Checo. Checo in 5th, Hamilton in 2nd. And still a lot of points available tomorrow as well. Tell me about George Russell's frustration here. He had the opportunity, he had the pass made. Would he have expected to get another go?
I think absolutely. I think what we've seen sometimes with these Pirellis is they go through a graining phase where things really start to fall apart, and then they actually kind of burn through that phase. The tire cleans back up, and you get a bit of performance back. And maybe that's what we've seen here with Carlos, because he was very much struggling at a time, but the tire advantage doesn't seem to be as much in Russell's hands anymore. Even when he attempted that pass, like we said, great counter defense move there from Carlos Sainz to make the repass, do the over-under, and get him back. But he's done a great job to hang on to it. He started 6th, looks like he's going to finish 6th, so even though you could argue it was a gamble, it's kind of worked out in a sense. There's a good chance if he started on the mediums, he would have just kind of been in lockstep with everyone else anyway.
And good data for the soft tyre, for Ferrari, for tomorrow, for the full Grand Prix distance of 56 laps. We're on the final lap of the sprint in Austin, and George Russell will be hoping that in the next couple of miles of this circuit he can close in for one last lunge and at least try and take it on the road. He does have that 5-second penalty hanging over him, so I think he's just going to complete the corners and hope that he's got enough to push on. It's only a 3.3-second gap to Pierre Gasly, so Russell's going to drop down to 8th position and the solitary point as a result. Zhou Guanyu has a penalty for overtaking off the road. Max Verstappen has another victory lap to enjoy as he comes into the stadium section for the acclaim of a huge crowd here at the Circuit of the Americas, with the stars with the stripes on the side of his Red Bull car, one of the greatest Formula 1 cars ever built. The genius of Adrian Newey has been shown in the design office once again. The genius behind the wheel of Max Verstappen on show nearly every single time that we go racing in Formula 1 2023. He comes to the final corner on the last lap. The Dutch driver will look up and see the checkered flag first once again in Formula 1. Max Verstappen is the winner. He takes the sprint in Austin with a dominant performance. 9.3 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton as he comes across the line. Hamilton once again in the top 3 at the Circuit of the Americas with a strong 2nd place. And over the line we go with Charles Leclerc hanging on thanks to a late charge for Lando Norris. He got close, 0.8 of a second away. That will give him a lot of encouragement for tomorrow. And then it was Perez in 5th, Sainz in 6th place. Russell comes over the line. That 5-second penalty is immediately applied, and he finds himself down to 8th with Gasly in 7th place. Then it was Albon outside the points, and this is a cracking run over the line for Daniel Ricciardo to chase home Esteban Ocon.
It's a bit of a heartbreak for Alex Albon because he was only 0.3 away from still being within that 5-second gap of George Russell and getting that last point. That's tragic.
Well done, Max. So, the good days at the beginning of that race. Nice job.
Simply lovely, that.
Yeah, that was a very, very strong Saturday, Max. Well done, mate.
Yeah, pace is good.
Hopefully a bit more fun tomorrow, mate.
Oh, and well done, Manning. Great job there.
Well, Max Verstappen being told that tomorrow will be fun. It certainly will. Well, Lewis Hamilton, for the first couple of laps, it was really encouraging, staying within the DRS.
Good job, lads. All right, let's keep pushing.
But he's G'd up there on the radio. He's encouraged with what he's seen this weekend.
You can hear it in his voice. I mean, even compared to some of the cool-down lap radio transmissions we've heard in the past this season when, you know, they're 30 seconds adrift of the Red Bull. Now, I know he was almost 10 and only a 19-lap sprint, so it still doesn't look great, but to be definitely the second quickest car, that does show some big progress. The updates this team brought clearly working, certainly more for Lewis Hamilton than they seem to be for George Russell at the moment, but the potential is there in that car to kind of be the next best at a circuit like this. So from where he's starting tomorrow, he's definitely going to have his eye on that win, because from third, he only has to beat a Ferrari and a McLaren in front of him. This man here is going to be on the pole, Lando Norris off pole, but Max down in 6th. We see he's got the pace, but it's not the easiest place to pass sometimes. I don't know, maybe DC should be here to say it's that whole you're saying there's a chance thing.
We've sent DC to run to Parc Fermé to get the thoughts of those at the front of the field. And it includes, once again, Max Verstappen. 3 times he's won in the sprint format this year, and he gets out the car. Car number 1, P1, once again. And on that last lap for Alex Albon, almost a sneak attack from Albon, he went 0.8 of a second faster than Russell, Gasly. He was 0.7 of a second faster than Sainz. A rapid lap unleashed by Albon, and it nearly snuck him into the final point. Not quite though, 0.3 of a second away, but he really did give it everything on that final tour. Max Verstappen taking the congratulations of his team. Champion driver, champion constructor, and winner in front of a huge crowd here in Austin. So looking further through the field, Gasly's P7 takes him into the top 10 of the drivers' standings. So that is encouraging for him. Solid result for Sergio Perez as well, who scored more points today than in the previous 2 Grand Prix weekends combined. It's been a bit of a tough run. Lando Norris at the end there, trying to hunt down the Ferrari, who Charles Leclerc was struggling for lap time. So a little bit of an ominous sign for tyre wear for the Ferrari package tomorrow.
Yeah, they've made some gains, haven't they? But it just doesn't quite seem to be enough. That race pace of the Red Bull is still phenomenal. We saw today how close it can be over a single lap, but over a 20-lap stint, it is just unmistakable how much better, whether it's the Red Bull, whether it's just Max, who knows, but taking care of those tires and just steadily extending that gap lap after lap, just so impressive.
So everyone taking a breather, having nursed the car to the flag. We suspected it would be these 3, the order of which uncertain. No bad blood after turn 1, but certainly being discussed, isn't it, between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc. Leclerc again proving that that P2 just gets an excellent launch, always seems to be the case. You have the inside line for that wide corner, and a little glug of the water. It is hot and heavy work, even in a sprint race. Everyone gathering themselves together. DC has made his way downstairs, and he can talk to the top 3 now.
Max Verstappen, a clean sweep on the sprint Saturday, pole position, race victory. The only difficulty looked on that run into the first corner, and I saw you just talking with Charles Leclerc there. You had to defend hard, but it was clean racing.
Yeah, it was quite tight, but luckily there's a lot of space going into turn 1, so yeah, that definitely helps. But yeah, after that we could do our own race, control the pace a bit, and then yeah, had a bit of fun at the end, pushing a bit more.
We heard you early in the race. Lewis was staying within that 1 second DRS zone, and you were saying about engine control, you were having some difficulties. Was that something you overcame from within the cockpit, or was that with you all the way through that race?
Yeah, I mean, it was always like 8, 9, 10s for a few laps, so that was all controllable into the braking zone. But yeah, the DRS, with such big wings here on this track, they're quite powerful, you know. And yeah, once I cleared the DRS, then yeah, we all settled in our own rhythms, and I think the pace of the car was very good today.
No surprise, the race pace is good. You're going to need that race pace tomorrow.
I do need it tomorrow, yeah. Starting P6 is going to be a bit different than today. but it makes it interesting. And yeah, hopefully we can have a bit of fun out there tomorrow, a few overtakes, and of course we want to win.
Absolutely. Quick word for the crowd, capacity audience here.
Yeah, the capacity is unbelievable. You know, the crowd here is getting bigger and bigger every single year. You almost don't see the hill anymore over there. Yeah, no, it's always great to be here.
Max, congratulations on the sprint
Thank
victory. Lewis Hamilton, a man that knows well how good the crowd in America can be. We just heard Max reference it. You've been using that power of the people to bring Mercedes into a really strong qualifying and a strong result today.
I didn't hear a single word you just said.
I said
the
you were
crowd just
amazing.
sounded so great. So thank you everyone for the amazing support. That was a fun race. Good start down to turn 1, and good battle with Charles. And then I was trying early on to get closer to Max, but their pace is just undeniable at the moment. So, but I'm happy we're a little bit closer. We still got a long way to be able to eke the pace that he was doing throughout the race. But nonetheless, I'm really happy to be back on the podium.
Well, this is Sprint Saturday. That's a good podium result. You can use this for knowledge for tomorrow's Grand Prix. And of course, you're going to have Max behind you.
Yeah, I think that will be helpful for us at the front. I think, I mean, ultimately, I think he will be breathing down our necks before too long, but with the pace that he had today. But I think that will open up for a good fight with Charles and Lando. We're all quite similar in pace. So hopefully we get to have a good battle tomorrow. And if we can all keep Max behind, that would be awesome. But if not, no worries.
Well, there's your challenge for tomorrow, but congratulations today.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
And Charles Leclerc, well, you went all in to the first corner. I thought that Max was going to end up in Houston. He was defending so tight, and that cost you the second place on the run out of the first corner, but you had to go for it.
Oh yeah, I mean, there was an opportunity, there was a gap, and I tried, but obviously then it was tight, and I lost the position to Lewis, but they were a bit stronger today in race pace. We expected them stronger, and they were, so we need to work to try and understand what we can do better to be a step ahead tomorrow.
Well, you're in a team that's got the only real experience of comparing the medium and the soft, because your teammate went off on the soft. It didn't work for him. What can we expect for tomorrow's Grand Prix? You've banked the result today, but of course this is a preview to the main event.
Yeah, I mean, at the end we have quite a lot of data to analyze. Having the two cars on two different strategy, I think this will be a bit of a help for us, because we know how the soft are behaving for tomorrow. So I hope we can take advantage of that, and yeah, hopefully we can win tomorrow.
Well, good luck and congratulations on the podium today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to David Coulthard. Speaking to the top three, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, and our winner of the sprint for the third time this year, Max Verstappen, who is already throwing it forward to tomorrow, where he's got to find a way out of 6th place and back to the front. And I think he's confident of that on the race pace that we saw. Great to see the medal being presented there.
Yeah, I mean, even Lewis Hamilton sort of seemed resigned that Max was going to be breathing down his neck before too long. So the EC said it. The pace of his car is absolutely undeniable. The pace of Max is undeniable right now, and it's going to be up to the 5 drivers in front of him to really almost work together in a sense to try to keep the Red Bull back, because otherwise it's going to be the Max show all over again.
Charles Leclerc there with his 3rd place award, and he completes a decent afternoon, but he knows that he's got to understand the tyres a little bit better for tomorrow, as he brought it home. Verstappen in the 139s on that final lap, everyone else in the 140s. Leclerc was in the 141. Either way, great stuff all round. And Lewis Hamilton being welcomed back into the picture. 4 great athletes on screen. Great stuff there. And they will then be whisked away to the press conference room, which is in the building on the left-hand side there. So it's through the main building and then back to the presser to give their thoughts on what's just occurred. The winning car already being moved away. Another dominant drive by Max Verstappen, the winner by 9.4 seconds in the end. Eked out a final 10th in the final meters. That's what it looked like to confirm the victory once again. 14 wins this year in the Grand Prix. and 3 now in the sprint. He goes for the all-time record in a single season. He already owns that, by the way, of 15, and goes for his 50th win in a Grand Prix in Formula One to join some truly phenomenal names: Sebastian Vettel, Alain Prost, Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton in the 50 Timers Club in Formula One. Well, it was tight down to turn 1, but then once again Max Verstappen was able to shake off the advances of Lewis Hamilton and stretch his legs to a easy win in the end, you have to say. Verstappen taking another sprint win ahead of Lewis Hamilton in second. Once again, continuing his great run here in Austin in any race format. Charles Leclerc third, chased all the way home by Lando Norris, who could really push that McLaren nicely in the latter stages. Sergio Perez was in 5th, Carlos Sainz in 6th position. Pierre Gasly elevated up to 7th thanks to the 5-second penalty for Russell. Albon falling just 0.3 shy as he tries to close down the gap. He was 9th, Piastri was 10th after contact at the first turn. He wasn't his usual self. Then it was Ocon, Ricciardo, Alonso, Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, Kevin Magnussen, Logan Sargent, and the only retirement was Lance Stroll. Well, my thanks to James Hinchcliffe and for David Coulthard for all of their insights across the race. Let's check in with the Drivers' Championship, where Max Verstappen extends that gap even further. Sergio Perez, 228 points. Lewis Hamilton closing that gap down a little bit today. He is trying to close in for second. We go to the second page with Alex Albon so close, in 13th there, very nearly making it 24 points, but just falling shy, and no opportunity for anyone else to take a step forward as we confirm all the way down with Nick de Vries 21st and Daniel Ricciardo in 22nd position. Here's the Constructors' Championship with Red Bull Racing, already champions, and then you have Mercedes, Ferrari, but look at the gap between Aston Martin and McLaren, now down to just 6 points. Then it's Alpine, Williams, Alfa Romeo, Haas, and AlphaTauri completing the field with 5 points in their total, but McLaren have their eyes on 4th place in that Constructors' Championship. Well, it's one thing to win a race from pole position. Max Verstappen has ticked that box. Tomorrow, in front of a capacity crowd, he tries to do it from 6th on the grid and win the US Grand Prix. We'll see you tomorrow when Formula One returns.